So today I'm going to teach you about spring. And how to have a healthy spring. So, what do you think of when you think of spring? Do you think of like, oh my gosh, now there's all these beautiful flowers blooming, especially the tulips, which are the harbingers of spring. And then, of course, nature is abundant and all the little bunnies are running around. Or do you think of yourself sneezing up a storm, running eyes, running nose, and blaming the pollen? So as Shunaji said in, I think, the 2-month course, don't blame the flowers, it's not their fault. So sure, pollen is a nasal irritant, but there's something more to that. And so I'm going to tell you about the Ayurvedic perspective on spring allergies and all this liquid coming out of your orifices. So this will probably be a review because every season we're going to talk about the cycles. And Ayurveda has 6 seasons. And right now we're in the spring season, or Vasanta. And that is from March 15th to May 15th. So we're even on the far end of spring and looking forward to summer. And then there's also some transitioning between the seasons too. But there's 6 seasons. Now, if you laid them out like this, so what is happening during the seasons is there's this bioelectric or bio force that's at work. 3 bioforces that Ayurveda deals with, and they cycle throughout the year. So the first is the dosha kapha. And not only is this, this force in the environment, it's also acting within us. And I'll tell you a little bit about this one, but then later, so kapha is actually peaking right now in the spring. It starts accruing in late winter, peaks now, and then it'll start coming down. And you'll see the relationship with the allergy symptoms a bit later. Then comes vata, which peaks in late summer, and then pitta, which is heat, peaks in the autumn. So what's peaking now is Kapha Dosha. So we're combining that natural increase in the environment with something that you already have in your body. So Kapha is made of Prithvi, which is earth, and Ap, which is water. So what does that make together? Mud, right? So the Kapha Dosha, its main function is to be structure, also for nourishment and lubrications. So there's some kapha in between your joints. That's that oil that's kind of in your joints. And the qualities of kapha are heavy, slow, steady, and also solid, soft, cold, and oily. So when you think of those, what comes to your mind? Maybe a big old stick of butter, right? Cold, oily, soft, right? Or maybe also that mucus that's all blocked up in your sinuses, right? So if you think of that, so now think, we're coming off of the winter, so what's changing in the environment? The sun's coming a little bit closer, right? We're getting a little bit warmer. So what's going to happen to that block of butter? It's going to start melting. And that is what is that discharge that's coming. It's really that kapha that's melting in this season. So why is there too much kapha? Well, not everybody has these issues, right? It's something that's within you specifically. And this could be one of the reasons that there's been certain dietary or lifestyle indiscretions, but you know, you're experiencing now because of your past indiscretions. So maybe in the late winter, you weren't as active, and you were more sedentary, and you were eating maybe a little more rich foods. So what are we going to do about it now? I mean, for next year, you know, like just be a little lighter and be a little more active in late winter, and then you won't have this problem. But let's see what we can do now to kind of reduce the kapha in your body. So, and it will reduce the mucus and the discharge. So first, you want to think about the properties that I told you about kapha, One of them is that it's cold. So you really want to avoid the cold during this season. You want to stay warm, and you don't want to be wet. You want to stay dry. And then you want to eat lighter foods. And so there are tastes that increase kapha and tastes that will decrease kapha. So you want to add more bitter, astringent, and pungent tastes. And we'll be talking a little bit about more specific examples of those things. And you want to reduce the amount of sour, sweet, and salty. And I think those are the ones we really go for, right? But you want to avoid those a little bit more. Another thing I'd like to talk about is a toxic buildup, because everybody thinks about spring cleaning inside and out, and everybody's like, oh, I want to go on a detox cleanse. So here's an Ayurvedic perspective on that. So what we think of as toxins in our body is called Aam. It's this sticky residue that results when your digestion is not digesting all the food perfectly. And here's just a little diagram of the digestion. And this is something that was really surprising that I learned when I was in the 2-month course, is that, well, say you have those indiscretions and you eat more than your body can handle. I thought you just either store it or get rid of it, but no, it's really detrimental to your body because it becomes toxic sludge, essentially, and it will start, well, first, like, your body takes what it needs, and then it sends it back to your digestive system to redigest it and to kind of complete, almost a bit like, you know, how the cow has 6 stomachs. Like, it really will come back up. And I'll tell you how you know if you have it. But if you keep doing that and never clear that, then it gets stored as this toxic stuff. And as an example, this toxic Aam stuck in your joints can be part of the disease of arthritis. So one of the remedies, the Ayurvedic remedies for arthritis, is to really start clearing and detoxing that Aam. So part of it is you may have a slow digestion. It may just not be just too much food, but you may be eating things that are just too hard to digest that you can't handle. And some of this is why Ayurveda promotes vegetarianism, not because there's something wrong about meat, it's just that meat is heavier to digest. And some people's digestions can't handle it. Also, fermented foods are very heavy, processed foods, frozen foods, and also raw foods. So a raw food diet may not be good for everyone. And then some other factors that slow your digestion or your digestive fire, we like to call it. A sedentary lifestyle will really weaken your digestion. Daytime sleep is pretty deadly for digestion, so we pretty much have a strict forbiddance on this unless you are pregnant or weak or elderly. And also, keeping those bioforces in balance is part of keeping your digestion stoked at the right rate. Like, we think of it as a furnace, and you don't want too much air and you don't want too little air. You really want it to be balanced to have a good fire to burn up all that food. So how do you know if you have Aam? I guess it can be pretty easy to tell. You have bad breath, you have a coated tongue, your appetite is pretty dull, and indigestion, and fatigue. So if you have those symptoms, you might want to think about clearing some of it out. So this is one of the diagnostics that Ayurvedic physicians use, is to look at the tongue. So it's kind of gross when I was like looking through pictures of tongues, but for this purpose, you know, you should see, like, this is a healthy pink tongue that is clear of Aam. And then these are coated tongues where you see this white stuff on. And everybody will say, oh, but I just ate, and you know, but it's not just sitting on the tongue, it's actually kind of within the tongue, you know, so it's either an Aam tongue or it's not an Aam tongue. And probably the most famous example of an Aam tongue is Miley Cyrus. So when we saw her on that viral video, you know, those of us who knew Ayurveda was like, oh, she's got a lot of Aam. So now what can we do about it? So this is the Ayurvedic way to detox, is you really want to boost that fire up, get that digestion working properly. So the one thing is daily exercise on a regular basis. And, you know, you don't have to hit the gym, right? What we consider exercise is walking for 30 minutes, but briskly. You should be elevating your heart rate. You should be sweating. And, but not to the degree that you're out of breath. In fact, you should be breathing in and out of your nose. And that will keep you at the rate below being too hard on yourself. Okay, so that's a proper exercise rate. And then we're going to talk about eating some lighter foods in this season, incorporating, but so that applies to both reducing kapha and reducing Aam, is you just really want to give your digestion a chance to burn through all the Aam in addition to the food that you ate. And in some cases, some fasting might be in order, but that would be in a case that you worked with a physician, with an Ayurvedic physician or health counselor. And to keep your fire stoked, you really want to eat at regular meal times. And this constant snacking or grazing, that really can put out your fire also, because your stomach never gets the full and empty and gets a normal cycle like it needs to have. So you want to have your breakfast before 9 for sure. You want to have your lunch around noon, and you want to have dinner around 5 to 6. So keep those regular meal times, and then you'll have a good digestion. And that's it. And now you'll get some practical tips. Okay, thank you.